Hello everyone, it's Chad. This is Dan with Dan Garcia YouTube channel. This is Chad with my very creative name, Chad Crandall YouTube channel. We're actually here, both of us are MBTI fans. Actually, this is going to be a free flow discussion though, based on kind of how the interaction between an ENFP and an ENTJ. We don't have any particular topic that we're going to come up with at first, so it's a free flow. Some of this will be edited basically for the sake of your time. However, we're just going to continue any type of conversation. Should we find a validated point, we'll make sure to stress it to you and add it in the final cut of this video. So,
well, what kind of
one of the things that we've talked about many times is the way that both of us have perceived relationships. That's interpersonal relationships between other types, like compatibility, but also another type is like romantic relationships and how we are able to work out those type of relationships with different types of people based on our own experience. I guess we could start off with an ENFP and ENFP type, since obviously that's something you're familiar with recently. You can kind of tell me how that interaction is.
Sure. Are we focusing just on the person that I was talking to before?
Sure. Yeah, let's just figure out, let's go from there.
Okay, so so recently I started talking, excuse me. Recently I started talking to another ENFP girl, lady friend, and it's actually kicked off really well and really fast, and I've actually come to realize that two well-developed ENFPs can become very intimate very quickly because of our dominant or our auxiliary function, I should say, of introverted feeling. And with this relationship, it's pretty interesting because me and this girl will be having little like sexual innuendos. I know that sounds weird, but everybody does this shit. So, can I say that?
That's fine. I don't care.
Okay. And I like the fact that in this particular friendship, that I'm able to communicate so much with very few words, because I can just move my eyebrow and wink a little, and she'll catch on really quickly, and I like that. I like that about my relationships, because sometimes I struggle with people where I have to describe everything, be articulate with my words, because either they don't understand what I'm saying and I have to clarify, or they are just not interested in what I am. And that's another thing about having a similar type to mine, or in this case at the same type, ENFP relationship, friendship. And so I find that very enjoyable. The conversation flows freely in any direction, and that's what I like. So, yeah, it's been going really well so far.
Okay, so we kind of got a perspective on a dual type combo there. Apparently, if you speak the same first two functions, you might be able to have an instant connection off of that. I can't say from personal experience that I've experienced anything from an ENTJ standpoint, so I couldn't, honestly. If I did, it was before I understood MBTI, so looking back, I really can't type that as well. So I do want to talk about the current status of relationships and kind of how we both view them in today's society with the media's influence on them. How do you think people are going to evolve? How do you think relationships are going to evolve in the future? Do you think they're going to change for the better? Do you think people are becoming more self-centered? Do you feel that people are becoming more narcissistic in today's society?
Well, first, before we go into that, you didn't go into his perspective on relationships. Busted.
Yeah.
So, Chad, would you care to share with us your perspective on love, and more of a summary, as I've sort of given?
My perspective on love
with I guess your most recent, the most recent love you've had, or the most recent person you've had a connection with, and how you feel about What's the ENTJ perspective on that particular
That's a good question.
person?
I think that ENTJ, as me, I don't know about all other ENTJs, but I do think that we see feeling something as almost like a hole in our armor. We don't want consciously to feel it, but yet at a very deep level, I think we do. It's just we feel like it puts us in a position where we lose control, and honestly, I don't like losing control, and not being able to even control your own emotions or feelings or experience or even the situation or even in a sense someone else's feelings. And you have to respect someone else's feelings, and if it's not the same or it's not mutual, then it creates a problem. It creates an environment where you feel like, if you want control, but at the same time you have to have that kind of respect for somebody. So it does feel like a weakness. It feels like you're giving up, in a sense, a part of you, and at the same time you really crave it. So it's almost like a dichotomy, because you really want this deep connection with somebody because we are FI users. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a very scary moment for an ENTJ. It's something we greatly fear. It's something we don't want to talk about. We'll never bring it up. Like, ENTJs don't admit that they...
Just like right now, when he was already going to skip over. And he was already going ENTJs like next. It's like, wait a minute, we got to talk about your feelings.
The ENFP brings out my FI. So, but...
And he brings out my TE, so...
But I do feel like that we typically will want to avoid mentioning that we feel anything. At any given point, if we do have an attraction to somebody, we don't want them to know we actually feel something. It's like we want them to know that we're attracted to them, and ENTJs are more likely to have, I don't want to say promiscuity, I do want to say that they are more likely to have very much detached relationships, or seemingly detached, or appear detached, because we don't want people to know that we feel something on that sort of level. We feel like it's a weakness. We don't want to admit to it. We don't want to tell people that we feel a certain way. It's a denial. It's like it's very rare that I'm ever going to admit to somebody, oh, I really like you. It's just...
Yeah. Is that like a denial to yourself?
No, because we know it. We just don't want the world to know it.
You don't want the world to
know. I think ENTJs have really fragile emotions on the inside. Admitting it is not easy, but I really do. I think we feel so much from FI, but we really we almost overcompensate with TE. So I think that we just have this fragility to us that we want to protect, because we feel like it's so infantile, in a sense. So it's so small and so weak that it's like a baby you want to protect. Yeah. Because it really is. It's not a highly developed function, so it's easy to break. I think when an ENTJ gets attached, at least when I do, it's like the world to us. It's like when we get attached to something, it has significance. Or if we make a commitment, we want to stick to our commitments. We want to follow through. We want to execute with the utmost honor and integrity, in the sense of FI, and being able to stick to that. So I think that's the biggest issue that we have with FI, is just we don't want to make those kind of commitments, because then we feel like we're overextending ourselves in an emotional area where we want to dominate with TE. So naturally, we want to crux on our dominant extroverted thinking.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I can definitely see that in you, as far as how you go about your emotions. And we talked about this before, but Chad is like, I don't know, he's a good guy, but he won't exactly show his feelings, just like like he's saying right now. But at the same time, it's like he wants to. Like right now, I was in the kitchen, and it's like I was telling him that like there's like a walking contradiction, because my dog is really annoying. She's like barking at him like all the time, and he's just like, hate you, whatever. He's not. You could tell he doesn't mean it. He's joking, like he's kidding around, like he doesn't mean it. But like I was like, Chad, can you take the dog out? Because she's asking you. She's asking you, man. She really wants you to take her outside. And it's like,
dog wants me to take her on a date,
essentially, dog wants to take him on a date outside. When basically he's taking her outside, and he's like not that he's complaining, but he's kind of griping about the situation, like stupid dog, like getting in the way of things, like he's barking, you're annoying. At the same time, he's like being so like gentlemanly like and opening the door, turning the light on, like, you know, it's like you're gonna be such a great father, Chad. I could tell. I mean, it's very hard to describe it, but you could just see this, like, his body language was disconnected in a way from his words. And that's why I was like, what do you really feel, man? Because from my point of view, you're going to be a great dad. And you're like freaking dog and, you know, you're annoying. But really, it's like, we're the same. FI users.